So lately I've had better self-awareness for like what constitutes. So I was talking about how circumstances really do affect what I can do and like should expect out of myself from a certain um say a certain day. And lately I've been more self-aware of like what are the signs that like it's a good day versus the high gravity days. And it's really quite different, the like experience of being all slumpy and like where I obviously it's just not going that day versus being in a healthy frame of mind and like able to move efficiently. So I guess this is partly to help me think through this, and partly I don't know, in case you find similarities. I'm recording this very fast because I have to catch a bus to go to a yoga class. And I'm like cutting it very close because I want to record this. But yeah, in case you find similarities with the certain category of like what makes your good days good from just an internal perspective. So, because I've been in the last week or so just in like a real slump, and they just came out of it really fast. I'm like, whoa, I'm thinking again, and so I'm noticing like what makes a difference. Basically, on a good day, it feels more like when I have caffeine, just like faster thoughts and noticeably faster thoughts, noticeably just like smoother, and almost my thoughts so that sort of meat realm to the pattern realm continuum, I'm able to like, instead of it just being, because on a bad day it'll be like, in one hand I'm thinking about the tiny small little details and like how I feel and like, oh, I'm hungry, oh, I'm just very basic, and then all these high level like ideals that I want to accomplish and like my long-term goals, and like I'm failing these, and I'm just super high level and super low level, just like tension between those two. Whereas on a good day, sort of, I'm more coherent between those and like able to span wider and simultaneously move pretty smoothly from the concrete moment to moment sort of thoughts and decisions to the higher level, more abstract realms and higher level patterns, and just able to like connect those and move among them. And just more like internally, yeah, have some notes. So it's slightly impeding my actual thoughts. Let's see. Yeah, so like, and then similarly feeling sort of balanced within whatever, within time, I guess, like a decent flow for what I'm doing in the present, and then tying in all of the like future sort of projection that I have for what I want the rest of the day to look like, and then the rest of my life, of course, and all of the higher level things, feeling like I'm quite balanced within like the flow of time, and just almost like a good rhythm of making decisions and sort of adjusting and having sort of being positioned here, and then having further out and further out and further out, like, okay, I'm gonna go to my yoga class and I need to catch the bus again, then come back to the store, go to the store, come home from that, do this, just sort of a loose grasp of the day, so that I'm like confident that all of that is fairly good and I'm looking forward to it enough, but not so much that overwhelms whatever I'm doing now. Just like a good balance, to almost like a web, so that all those things are holding me in a good place. And then of course if things go wrong, being able to quickly adjust and just like make the adjustment along the string of expectations. Whereas on a bad day, it's it's almost like if you were doing like parkour or something and hitting various or like in a platformer game, hitting various little platforms, and you want to have a certain rhythm. And on a bad day, it'll just be like just all over the place and like falling all the time. And if something like I'm obsessing, thinking over this one thing that I'm gonna do, and like thinking over all of the possibilities for it, and like, do I want to do this? And what if it goes wrong? Like, is it worth it? And just like making myself miserable. And I don't know. It's like on the bad days, that's just the pattern that my thoughts are going in, and it's not efficient. It feels like stumbling all the time, like sort of stuttering and having this sort of stuttering just rhythm to the thoughts instead of into like my decisions. And any little thing will like throw me off, and then the whole day just goes sideways. Whereas if it's a better day, I say day because that's an easy way to break up time, and it generally is the way that I think. But yeah. So, yeah, I guess a good rhythm of making decisions, good, stable, and flexible, like projection into the future of expectations and goals, short term, and then moving into long term smoothly. It's basically everything. Feeling coherent. And also, able to adjust and basically having a more internal and sense of well-being that is stable, independent of the circumstances, and independent of things that might go wrong. Like, say I missed this bus. I'm talking pretty fast. But say that happened, on a bad day, I'd be like, oh, what do I do now? And then I'd have to spend like half an hour thinking about it, because I would just be spending the wrong amount of time considering each sort of aspect of the planning. Whereas today, if that happened, it'd take me a shorter amount of time and just be like, oh, okay, do this. Or like on a bad day, it's like basically having very thin skin. Having very thin skin, like if people are talking loudly next to me, or talking about something that just depresses me or like bothers me that I can overhear, that will completely get to me and sort of break my little bubble of well-being. Whereas on a good day, like such as yesterday, I was sitting in the coffee shop and there were some people talking about things that I thought were depressing aspects of the modern world, and I was just like, whatever, because I had my like songs and I had my thing that I was doing, and I had my general good mood and my things that I was thinking about, subjects that I was thinking about, sort of open loops going, and it was just making this nice little world that those random bothersome conversation couldn't bother. But on the bad days, I'm not able to construct that sort of I'm not able to construct that, therefore everything just throws me off. The metaphors really have to do with the body, because the body is like how we exist in the world, and what the nexus of power is by which we act in the world is what Lord of Spirits defines. And yeah, you can easily make the connection to like, if you're strong and have energy, somebody can like even slam into you and you're just able to correct your course. Because if you're weak and sick, somebody slams you, you're like fall to the ground, and you also can't move around obstacles. And like that's the clearest way to make concrete all of these things about like the way of movement of my thoughts and like mental activity. Basically, on good days, I hold together, able to move efficiently through the world of the pattern. And certainly, I noticed that on the good days, which have become more common, so it was weird to have that slump. I don't know what was going on. Just blame it on the ankle. I'm also like more aware of my body, but like not in the sense that I'll be slightly hungry and I just cannot function until I go eat or something, which is again having like thin skin and just any little thing will just get to me on those days. It's so irritating. But on the good days, I'll be like more aware and like more able to sort of notice like my movements and be more consciously graceful or more consciously like practicing. I try to take every little opportunity when I can, when I have the energy to, like, if I'm stretching over to get something, like, go all the way for that and, like, notice also the way that feels and try to, like, make it a smooth, good motion, because I find it very difficult. I basically find it very difficult to be motivated to do proper, like, exercise, so I just work it in the little moments throughout the day. But anyway, yeah. More in tune with my body in the world, and similarly seeing more, able to like, because of having that good rhythm of thought and like having a sort of clear space in not having to be caught up thinking about decision making and thinking about what I'm doing, what the plans are, and worrying about all of that, I then have the clear space to like see the things that I see around, seeing more like implications of those things and tying those into all of the constant running threads of ponderings that I have, and keeping that sort of also going in the background, and like noticing, a tree growing and having that recall to me all of these threads of thought that I have going about like patterns in the world and like life and like resurrection and say the seasons, and or yesterday I was in the coffee shop and feeling good, and I was seeing some permit that they had on the wall that you have to get if you want to open a coffee shop. Then instead of just looking at that and be like passing over it because of not having the energy, like I was looking at that and continuing to think about this whole thing about framing the world in a more enchanted way, and how that's basically some like arcane ritual that you have to go through, like all of the spirits and the rituals that you have to put, all this bureaucracy, it essentially corresponds to some kind of rituals and spirits and etc. However, we frame it in a much more banal way, and vice versa if we experienced those aspects of life and they looked a little bit more. Anyway, I was just having these thoughts like quite fast and tying that on as well as doing everything else that I was doing, but I had like the room for the extra ponderings, which I like. Thank you very much. Yeah. And things and the good parts of my environment holding together in a more coherent way, and like just being able to keep track of everything at once and like tie it together. And then all this is also related to my mental activity itself, like thoughts themselves being higher level or spanning different levels and thinking more faster and then less verbally. So more like geometrically, or like images and sort of maps of different connections and feelings and like gestures, and very efficiently like moving between all those and making multi-level decisions and noticing things on different levels simultaneously, and like connecting and moving very quickly and easily and with a good rhythm, not like staying too long in one thing and then getting all distracted. It all feels good and cohesive and like comfortable and smooth. To be living and moving and having my being on those days. Oh yes, and the last thing is, because of all of that, I find myself wanting to take little challenges and do more, and just having more energy to step things up a notch when the opportunity arises. Whereas if I'm in a slump, it'll just feel like a burden, and I will not want to do that. Noticing all of this and becoming more attuned to picking up on generally how I'm doing helps me to not have, to realize that when I'm in a good place and have full homeostasis, I'm going to be able to do more of what I want to, and be more the person that I guess I want to be. But if it's a bad day, it doesn't mean that I have suddenly become lazy. It's just, for whatever reason, I don't have the energy needed. If the circumstances were different, I would then flourish more. And when the circumstances become different, or when things change, I will manage to flourish more. It just helps me to see that, to adjust, sort of on a meta level higher above that, to adjust my expectations and goals, and very quickly, and it's because it all is okay, good, we're still good. It's all about, these things can change very quickly, day to day, or even within the day. And so one moment I might be saying, okay, I want to, do these 5 things today and think about this and make this video and think about this concept, and all of that feels very easy and I can balance it all and hold it all in perspective. But then something else changes, something gets in the way, I just hit a slump, and suddenly all of that collapses and is feeling overwhelming, and I have to very quickly be able to be okay, no, we're in this state now, so forget all of that, just cut most of that and focus on these few things. Or even sometimes knowing when to not go into a whole rabbit trail of thought that normally, or under good circumstances, would be fun and would be productive, but clearly I'm not taking it right now, and it's gonna be too much. So I've gotten better at that, knowing what to take on when, and what feels manageable at a given time. Keeping tabs on my general state, level of energy, level of strength, and adjusting my expectations to that. But you can't do that too much. Again, it's keeping a good rhythm with that too, because if I'm every 5 seconds interrupting myself to think, okay, I'm at a 3 out of 5 status right now, then that gets distracting, and then that gets to be this stuttery thing that's getting in the way. And so it's all learning. But yeah, today's feeling good so far. So let me go not miss my bus. And a basic way to summarize this, I guess, is my level of arrangement, engagement with the world, with myself, or the amount of detail and the complexity of the sort of model of concept, also Taylor goals and desires and expectations that I'm putting into it, and sort of the trajectories of the points of the model that I am sort of overlaying over the world. And it's not
I think it's more integrated than that, but it's a good way to put it. So for instance, a good example is like if I'm gonna go to the store on a good day, I'll be able to plan my meals, plan new meals, which is always a challenge, and then like figure out what to buy at the store so that I get a good amount of food that I won't have to come back for several days, but also it won't be too much where I just won't finish it. And then what am I going to feel like? And it's a lot of factors that I'm able to very easily all factor into this store plan. But on the high gravity days, it's all breaks up and just feels very overwhelming. And I will think like, oh, am I going to feel like this? I can't think of anything new. I don't want that. And it just becomes like, if I try to maintain that high complexity model and like really go to the store with excellence, I'm just not gonna want to go at all. Or, for instance, just like if I'm about to leave for somewhere, I'll do like a check. Like, okay, do I have everything? Come into the shade. Do I have everything in my backpack? Just like mentally run over that, and then quickly run over like the schedule again for wherever I'm going when I'm gonna get back, and kind of take that to the end of the day. And that usually would take a couple seconds and be really easy, but on a high gravity day, it's breaks up and is all overwhelming, and I'm like stuttering over everything. And again, it's the flexibility of just not doing that check and being like, if something goes wrong, we deal with it in the moment in maybe a messier way, but otherwise I just won't be able to act at all. Or like, I have my crutches, like how nicely am I going to arrange them when I sit down? How much flair am I going to put into my way of like getting onto them and walking versus just stumbling around and shoving everything around, which normally I wouldn't like to do, but sometimes it's that or nothing at all. This all, or like when I was coming down the stairs, I had the crutches wrong and like almost fell. So then just doing my normal thing would be to go into a quick little, sort of like replay it, like why did that happen, and then stick a little pin and like notice the overall pattern of what was going on, and like, okay, try not to do that again. And just like give it enough attention to where I maybe will remember that next time. And, like normally or if I have enough energy, that would be an easy process. But on a high gravity day, I'll just fall into like worrying over if I'm gonna fall and what would happen if I did, and I'm not gonna remember it, and then it just derails and don't have. And just avoiding that at all or cutting it off more quickly in those circumstances. I've tried to flee this music, but it's everywhere. And this all really has to do with like beauty first ethics. So not my land, like yelling. So not, instead of having these moral like hard rules for what should I be doing versus what's like failure, and what I should be going for, having a looser, more scalable and flexible ideal or model or thing that I'm gonna be using to make my decisions and see and act in the world. For instance, instead of like, okay, always engage with people, always say thank you to people, always be like nice to people, there's more of a thing of I can do that, or like that'll happen naturally, and I should keep that in mind and be aware of the people if I have the energy for it. If I don't, I can't, and I shouldn't even try, because I'll just exhaust myself and not be pleasant company anyway. But it's moving out of the like rules, and then like I should be this kind of person all the time, and I should be doing this all the time, and once I stay at this level, or once I get to this level, I should stay at this level all the time, and like into more of a beauty first, like more of just a model that's scalable and that's flexible for different situations. Otherwise, on a high gravity day, I'm trying to apply this very complex model and system and all these goals or expectations, and I can't do it, and I can't keep it up, and I just feel like a failure at existence, and I need to like take it down a notch. versus, or also, or then on a low gravity day, I've gotten used to kind of being in this low level, like just survive, and then I'm having all these ideas all over the place that are all out of, they're just chaotic, and I have too much energy, and I'm like bored and restless because I don't have actually enough challenge and enough complexity in what I'm trying to, in like the model. A lot of this does apply to like a gamification. Well, never mind, that's a different subject.